into social media. This presentation is meant to be a look into the budgets, challenges, and staffing at destination marketing organizations marketing within the United States. This presentation is only meant to be about 30 minutes, and we will leave some time at the end for question and answers. So if you have any questions as we go along, please feel free to type them into the Q&A function, and we will review them at the very end. For any questions we may run out of time to get to, please type them in, and we will make sure to follow up via email. I am Brittany Wood, and I lead the digital marketing team here at Development Counselors International. Joining me also is my colleague Genevieve Pritchard, and she will be assisting with moderating the Q&A at the very end. For those of you who may not be familiar with DCI, I'll share a quick overview of who we are and what we do. DCI is widely known as the leader in marketing places, and since 1960, we have worked with more than 450 cities, states, countries, and regions as a partner in economic development marketing and tourism promotion marketing. And as the leader in marketing places, we often hear from DMOs in the industry that they understand social media is important. However, many are still struggling with how this evolving marketing element should fit into the destination's overall marketing strategy. And after hearing this concern come up around the industry and conferences, etc., DCI decided to conduct a study that would assist destinations marketing here in the United States in understanding how the industry overall is structuring and deploying their budget and staff to tackle the social media challenges that they face. We hope this study and this presentation can shed some light on the direction the industry is headed, as well as assist DMOs in benchmarking their efforts. So in the fall of 2003, DCI surveyed 101 individuals responsible for social media marketing at destination marketing organizations that are marketing within the United States. The majority of the respondents represented cities and regions. However, 4 countries were represented, as well as 5 state-level DMOs. We asked a series of approximately 17 questions to dig deep into the 3 elements of DMO social media planning for 2014 and beyond. And those 3 elements were budget, staffing, and challenges. Now, it seems that everyone knows social media marketing is impossible to ignore as a part of a marketer's overall toolbox. In fact, 99% of DMOs had a digital media strategy in place, and we know the value of social media comes in putting everyone on equal footing. If you have the time to invest in a social media campaign, you can highlight those partners that may not always get the attention because they don't have money to fund a print advertising campaign or any news to promote to media. However, they could be a hidden gem within your community that is certainly worth a visitor's time and consideration when they're on the ground in your destination. However, our research showed that budget and staffing allocations among DMOs did not reflect the apparent value that social media can bring to a marketer. So while I mentioned that 99% of the DMOs we surveyed had a strategy in place, only 60% of those had a dedicated budget for social media activities. On this slide here, you can see the various budget ranges that 60% of the survey participants shared that their organization was spending on social media marketing activities, which is not including staff time. Among those with a dedicated budget for social media, 71.2% spent less than $25,000 annually on those activities, and 37.3% spent less than $10,000 annually on social media activities. This slide takes a look at those figures in context of the overall marketing budget of the DMO. You can see for the majority, about 76% across all spending categories, social media budgets represent less than 10% of the organization's total marketing budget. Surprisingly, about 12% of the DMOs with a budget spending $10,000 to $25,000 on social media indicated that this was actually more than a quarter of their marketing budget for the year. Additionally, more than 30% of those who are allocating more than $50,000 to social media activities, indicated that this could represent anywhere from 10 to 25% of their marketing budget. And here you can see how that social media budget allocation was broken out by activity. 13% of DMOs were using it on monitoring systems, so Radian 6, Focus Social, Sprout Social. 18% were using it on contesting in order to do fan acquisition or engagement with current fans. 28% were spending it on human resources, for engagement. 29% for content development, so developing infographics, images, GIFs, etc. And of course, the largest percent, 39%, went towards paid promotion, so promoted tweets, Facebook ads, etc. For the DMOs with social media budgets greater than $10,000, the largest share of their social media budget was focused on those paid promotional opportunities across social media platforms. The survey also showed that while many DMOs implement campaigns in-house, 32% of them outsource some or all of their social media activities. DMOs with social media budgets ranging between $25,000 to $50,000 were most likely to outsource some or all of these activities, indicating that it is perceived that it's more cost efficient for them to outsource social media rather than to hire staff in-house and keep them progressively trained on the changing industry. The appeal of outsourcing is also supported by the fact that time is actually seen as the biggest obstacle in successfully implementing a social media strategy, and we'll touch on that a little bit more later. Of the DMOs who are outsourcing their social media activities, 39% of DMOs were using a dedicated digital agency, while 32% were using an advertising agency. On this slide, you can see the number of DMOs staff with digital responsibilities in-house at their organization. So not surprisingly, it sort of goes in order in terms of the budget that the DMO is allocating towards social media, anywhere from 1 to 2 employees if the DMO is spending $1,000 to $10,000 on social media, about 2.3 employees for those spending 25 to 50, 2.6 employees for those spending 10 to 25, and obviously those spending $50,000 or more had the most employees, with it ranging somewhere between 3 and 4 employees, so 3.6 employees. Now that said, these DMO socialites are spending approximately 35% of their day on social media activities, and the remainder of the time are spent on other responsibilities within the organization. On this slide, we've broken out how each of those budget levels is allocating time to the social media of their staff members. So you can see here the average, as I mentioned, was 35% of their time on social media, but there are those in the category over 50,000 that are spending upwards of over 60% of their daily time dedicated to social media. When we asked DMOs where they were spending their time, what platforms, we found that despite the entry of new social media platforms, Facebook and Twitter are the most commonly used tools in social media for DMOs to engage with their consumer audience. Interestingly, Pinterest and YouTube were both tied for third. In the last section of the survey, we tried to dig deeper into the challenges that DMOs are facing in their social media activities. And I'm sure that those of you listening will not be surprised to see that time was the #1 response to the challenges faced by DMOs. Social media marketing is inherently time-consuming. And with the majority of the staff we found through this survey working only with 35% of their time dedicated to social media marketing, that highlights that time came out on top here as well. However, only 27% of the DMOs surveyed actually plan to increase the size of their social media staff in the coming year. This may indicate that the leadership within the DMOs have reached a threshold where they feel existing staff are capable of handling the social media activities that they're executing. The cost of adding additional headcount is overridden by the perceived return of investment on the social media marketing program. The next largest reported challenge was, in fact, keeping up with trends and technology, with 17.3% of respondents suggesting that this was a challenge that they face on an ongoing basis. When we asked DMOs, well, how do you learn? How do you keep on top of these trends in the industry? More than 30% of them suggested that they do that by attending a conference, attending seminars, and or webinars, such as the one we're on now. Here's a full breakout on the responses in terms of how DMOs suggested that they were staying on top of the current social media trends. As I mentioned, 30% said conference, seminars, or webinars. The next highest way to stay on top of it was articles and newsletters, followed by online resources such as Twitter, blogs, etc. The last challenge that we want to call out today is, in fact, the challenge of measuring success in social media marketing, which was indicated by about 8.7% of our respondents as a challenge that they face. And while 74% of DMOs we surveyed do, in fact, measure a return on investment for social media activities, 26% indicated that they don't do any measurement on return on investment. We know that only a small percentage, 13%, of the DMO social media budget was allocated towards monitoring systems that charge for their software, such as Radian6, Sprout Social, which you see on the screen here, or Vocus Social. And without these monitoring systems, it does become time-consuming for the staff within a DMO to create an accurate digital picture of how consumers are referring to the destination brand online. And it limits the potential for engagement with potential consumers or consumers on the ground as well. Additionally, without influential metrics to support the effectiveness of social media marketing, it's really difficult for a DMO staffer such as yourself to justify augmenting the social media budget for your staff on in-house. And in fact, while 74% of DMOs said that they do measure the return on social media activities, when we asked them how, they suggested that they monitor most frequently engagement. However, it remains virtually impossible for them to track which social media activity translates into an actual booking unless social media is acting in isolation from other integrated marketing tactics. And this means that the effectiveness of the social media campaigns and efforts on behalf of the DMO in generating awareness that leads to booking, similar to earned media activity, is certainly more difficult to prove and to quantify in dollars for both your leadership and the community in which you serve. Interestingly, the DMOs with a budget of only $10,000 to $25,000 often acted in contrary to the others that responded to the survey. When comparing the organization's overall budget for social media, this is the group that we found spent more than 25% of their total marketing budget on social media activities. Additionally, the organizations in the $10,000 to $25,000 budget level also spent the highest percentage of their budget on external resources, whether that was a paid promotion campaign or monitoring systems. And surprisingly, in forecasting growth for 2014 and beyond, 40% of the organizations in this area did in fact plan on expanding their social media team in 2014. We expect the DMOs in this budget level perhaps don't have as much budget to do traditional marketing efforts, and thus they keep their focus on cost-effective marketing such as social media, which has the highest perceived ROI from their perspective. We think that this makes them the interesting ones to watch in the year ahead to see what in fact they are doing with the quarter of their marketing budget. How are they promoting their destination online, as we think that they will be the trendsetters moving forward as they're investing more time and money into their social media marketing. Now at this time, we just wanted to walk through some case studies of different destinations who are doing a fantastic job on social media. And what we want to call out here before we get started is the fact that these DMOs are doing things that any DMO can do, things that don't necessarily cost a tremendous amount of budget to put in to the social media activities, so they're easily replicated amongst your team, etc. The first case study you see here is Visit Albuquerque. They have a strong social media presence, and their Facebook following is close to 95,000 fans. Their posts have extremely high engagement, with up to 800 likes for a picture and over 100 shares in many cases. While pictures do see higher engagement than text-based articles, the articles that Albuquerque has been sharing, they really do a great job of speaking in a fun and personal tone that motivates potential visitors to click the link, explore more about Albuquerque, find out what they're talking about, what they're sharing. Additionally, Albuquerque created some fun patriotic graphics around the World Cup with a soccer ball and that red chili pepper and the Albuquerque logo. And what this did is it really gave them the opportunity to take advantage of a world event that was happening and join an ongoing conversation. And you can see here it was really well received. Almost 2,800 people liked it. It had almost 150 shares. We recommend utilizing these sorts of world events to capitalize on expanding your reach when you're doing social media marketing. The next case study that we want to profile is Travel Portland. And Travel Portland does a phenomenal job on Twitter. Their sweet sauce is lots of personal responses, outreach, and high engagement. While Twitter is a great platform for pushing out content, and many destinations do a fantastic job of sharing events, partner photos, and other activities and things happening within the destination, what Travel Portland does is they spend most of their tweets actually replying to questions or responding to travelers' photos or comments. So they're spending an extraordinary amount of time looking for people who are talking about Portland or other conversations that Portland could be a part of. And tweets like this definitely add a personal touch and show a human voice behind a handle and a hashtag. And we know that consumers today really want brands to be humanized, and they want to feel like they can relate to a brand. So this is a great example of how a DMO can make themselves relatable. Our next example is a Pinterest case study. And Greater Lansing does a fantastic job of curating beautiful photography that speaks to a variety of ages and audiences. Each board targets a specific demographic, as you can see here on the screen. History buffs, arts and culture lovers, golf lovers, nature lovers, foodies, and even niche audiences such as inspiration for meeting planners have a board here. So for an area that maybe isn't as well known, these pictures show that there really is something for everyone in Lansing. And the last case study we'll go through here is Instagram, and it's a state DMO that we'll highlight, and that is Visit California. And you can see what Visit California does a really great job of is highlighting their partner photos. So this photo here of the fireworks came from Mammoth Mountain. You can see in the first row of images in the center, there's a video there, so incorporating video into their Instagram feed. Additionally, they've done a great job of bringing on influencers to take over their Instagram for a day and promote really engaging photography with the beautiful landscapes and other urban adventures that are available across the state. And that concludes our presentation today. As I mentioned, we were leaving about 5 minutes here at the end for Q&A. We will be sharing the full report of the research with you via email, so thank you for attending. We also encourage you to follow DCI on Twitter and to check out our website for more interesting case studies and facts about DCI. And at this time, I will turn it over to my colleague Genevieve to moderate questions and answers.
Hello. The first question we have is from Justin, and he says, you mentioned attending conferences to learn more about trends in social media and kind of the cutting edge of different things, and he says, what conferences do you recommend for DMOs?
That's a great question, Justin. There are a couple conferences I'll recommend that generally take place in the fall. The first one is the eTourism Summit, which takes place in October. And that happens every year in San Francisco, and essentially what they do is a great job of bringing in some of the travel directors at the top social media sites like Facebook, Twitter. Last year YouTube was also there and spoke, and it really provides a great industry update across all tourism aspects in terms of digital marketing. You might also consider the Social Media Tourism Symposium, which also happens in the fall, and this year's conference is in Nashville in November. And that is specifically focused on destinations and social media. So some really niche case studies shared there by other destinations that have found success with different campaigns, certainly one worth checking out. And the last one I'll mention is actually the Travel Bloggers Exchange. For any of you, those of you who are listening in that perhaps wear dual hats, as we know most of you do, since only 35% of our respondents said that, or I'm sorry, our respondents said that only 35% of their time is focused on social media. So the Travel Bloggers Exchange is another one that I would recommend. That is happening this fall as well, and they're really working on increasing their industry professional development opportunities, and then it also allows you to come face-to-face with some of the top travel bloggers in North America.
All right, and our second question is from Jessica, and she asks, what is the best way to find content to regram for Instagram? And I'll answer that. Jessica, that's a really great question. For Instagram, I would recommend first looking at your brand strategy, and if there's certain experiences or pillars or festivals that you're really trying to highlight or promote, start searching for those hashtags. So for example, for Visit California, you might want to start searching for hashtag California or Cali, or if there's certain cities or attractions you'd like to promote, and see what kind of pictures and content people are promoting. And then you can kind of find some interesting pictures, and from there start regramming. So you can use a lot of free tools for this, even like Hootsuite, to monitor different hashtags, and then from there really find the pictures that capture your destination the best and use those for regrams. So at this point, I think that's all of our questions.
Fantastic. Well, thank you everybody once again for joining us today, and we will be following up with a copy of the presentation, and we appreciate your time.